Tonight, Catherine spared from major flooding, but Adelaide River goes under and hundreds are left without power around the Territory. Good evening, I'm Kyle Dowling. This is ABC News, Northern Territory. Also tonight, a call to conserve fuel as the global energy crisis deepens. Iran promises to retaliate if the US follows through with its threats to bomb its power plants. Voters and politicians left wondering if One Nation's success in South Australia will translate nationally. And frozen in time, a large-scale tribute for the youngest winner of the race that stops a nation. While the top-end town of Katherine escaped the full wrath of ex-tropical cyclone Narelle, authorities are shifting focus towards a smaller nearby community. Adelaide River is one of 4 NT waterways under emergency warnings tonight after recording hundreds of millimetres of rain, which has left 200 residents without power.
The people of Katherine breathing a collective sigh of relief.
2 weeks ago we had 24 hours notice if you're lucky. This new event we've had a week to prepare for it, and rightly so. It could have absolutely decimated our town.
Although ex-tropical cyclone Narelle has now passed, sandbags still line the streets, a sign the town's not in the clear just yet.
The call for what this was going to be was scary, and thankfully it didn't come to fruition, and we really just got lucky.
It moved a lot quicker than we were expecting, which is great news for the Territory. So generally speaking, there is much less damage than what we were expecting due to those fast speeds.
Even so, the wild weather caused havoc across the Territory's electricity network, with hundreds of customers left without power. Outages stretching from Darwin through to Arnhem Land and down to the big rivers. After preparing for major flooding, the Katherine Bridge now expected to hit only minor or moderate levels. At Adelaide River, around 200 millimetres fell, inundating 4 homes and forcing some to evacuate. Drinking water was cut off last night, and today a boil water alert announced for the town and nearby Bachelor. The deluge also closing roads, including parts of the Stewart Highway.
Let me be absolutely clear. If the road is closed, it is closed for a reason. Do not put your life and the life of emergency services at risk by driving into flooded roadways.
To the northwest, the extra rain could mean the Daly River remains submerged for weeks, pushing out an already lengthy wait for the residents to return home.
Right now, people from remote communities in evacuation centres don't have any agency over their life, and it echoes the days of our people from the stolen generations.
A sense of uncertainty lingers on. Courtney Barrett-Peters, ABC News, Darwin.
We'll take you now to Katherine, where Oliver Lathouris has the latest. Ollie, there's clearly a way to go before things get back to normal down there.
Yeah, that's right, Kyle. I think there is, broadly speaking, a sense of relief that the community here isn't going to have to endure a second major flood event. But all of this waiting and preparing for tropical cyclone Narelle has caused some delays to the clean-up effort from the first flood, which they experienced 2 weeks ago. So there's going to be a lot of people returning to homes and businesses and still facing the prospect of a really big clean-up effort over the next few days and weeks. The field hospital set up by the National Critical Care and Trauma Response Team is going to remain open tonight. That's because there needs to be further assessments done on the Katherine Hospital before it can be reopened. As for schools, government schools in Katherine will be open from tomorrow. So some baby steps toward normalcy, but still quite a long way to go. Kyle?
Thanks, Ollie. Ex-cyclone Narelle has now moved away from the Northern Territory, heading west. ABC meteorologist Tom Saunders has been mapping her path from North Queensland. It has now been a week since Cyclone Narelle first formed, and the system's journey is far from over. As predicted, a second landfall occurred at the weekend just north of Groot Island, ahead of a weakening over the inland to a tropical low on Sunday. That track west continued today, and ex-tropical cyclone Narelle is now heading over the North Kimberley, which has allowed rain and wind to ease over the NT. However, in the 24 hours to 9 a.m, a band of 100 to 250 millimetres was observed across the western top end, including 244 millimetres at Channel Point, the station's wettest day in 26 years, while 195 millimetres at Adelaide River was an 11-year high. And over the past week, widespread totals of 100 to 400 millimetres have been recorded, and Darwin's wet season total has now exceeded 2,200 millimetres, already the highest in 9 years. And the result is ongoing flooding, including a major flood warning for the Daly River. And with creek and river levels still rising, a flood watch remains in force for 15 catchments. But the good news is the heaviest rain has now cleared to the west, and while showers and storms will remain relatively widespread through Tuesday and Wednesday across the top end, by Thursday, many areas can expect, at least in the short term, some dry relief. However, for WA, they're bracing for a potential third impact. The Narelle will re-intensify off the Pilbara coast midweek, then head south and may strike the country's west coast during the weekend. Territory Labor's Ed Smelt has officially been sworn in as the new member for Nightcliff. Mr Smelt won the Nightcliff by-election held earlier this month, which was triggered by the resignation of Greens member Kat McNamara for health reasons. The NT Electoral Commissioner officially declared the result today, with Mr Smelt beating Greens candidate Suki Doris Walker by 120 votes. A former Darwin councillor and civil engineer, Mr Smelt's campaign focused on improved health services, the installation of a community battery and repairs to the Nightcliff jetty.
I've got a lot of work to do now. I really enjoyed the process of the election, got to talk to thousands of people across the electorate, and now I think they've got very high expectations about what I can bring to the role and being that strong voice for Nightcliff.
Turning now to the impact of war in the Middle East, with the Prime Minister negotiating with Australia's international fuel suppliers to shore up shipments as the conflict enters its fourth week. The International Energy Agency has warned this energy crisis is worse than previous oil shocks and has recommended countries start curbing demand. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Burnt-out tankers targeted by Iran, a smouldering symbol of what's being called the greatest energy crisis in global history. Worse than the twin 1970s oil shocks and Ukraine war combined.
This crisis, as things stand now, 2 oil crises and 1 gas crisis put all together.
As the clock ticks down on Donald Trump's deadline to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, Iran remains defiant, threatening to retaliate if America strikes its power plants.
The situation is very severe.
The conflict now in its fourth week, the International Energy Agency is calling on countries to consider conserving fuel stocks by working from home, lowering highway speed limits, using public transport and cutting back on flights.
We will take graduated steps depending on what happens.
In Australia, the focus is on getting fuel to where it needs to be. From Queensland to South Australia, nearly 250 service stations are out of diesel. Those who can get it are paying dearly.
We use approximately 30,000 litres a month. It's $1 a litre dearer than what we paid 3 weeks ago.
Surging diesel costs hurting the transport sector too. Unions demanding government intervention to ensure drivers are compensated.
It's really urgent. Transport will grind to a halt unless we ensure that transport operators are properly funded.
While trying to manage the economic fallout, the Prime Minister's personally intervened to shore up Australia's fuel shipments. Today, signing a pact with Singapore to ensure petrol, diesel and jet fuel continues to flow. Anthony Albanese reminding key trading partners of Australia's status as a major gas exporter.
We are reliable partners when it comes to energy security, and we expect that to be a two-way flow.
With Qatar suspending LNG exports, Australia's gas giants are cashing in. Support growing in Parliament to tax their windfall profits.
Energy investors are like butterflies. When they are scared, they fly away.
The energy boss warning against further shocks to the sector. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
There's no end in sight to the supply shock, with Iran defiant to US demands to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And as world leaders call for calm, Israel is intensifying its war efforts on multiple fronts.
Israel's fury raining down on Lebanon. The IDF ordering the destruction of all bridges over the Litani River to stop Iran's proxy Hezbollah from moving south to the border.
And in addition to this, to accelerate the destruction of Lebanese homes in the contact villages in order to thwart threats to Israeli communities.
As Israel fights Iran on two fronts, the Prime Minister made a rare wartime appearance after one of the worst attacks on Israeli soil so far.
If anyone needed an explanation of why Iran is the enemy of civilization, you got it in the last 48 hours.
At least 180 people were injured in strikes on the cities of Arad and Dimona, located close to Israel's secretive nuclear reactor.
It's scary. Children, old people, it's a catastrophe.
Aside from being a political stronghold for the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, this area is heavily protected because of the nearby nuclear facility. So news of the successful strike came as a surprise. By coming here, he's sending a message to residents, it's safe to stay. Benjamin Netanyahu telling the ABC the facility is still secure.
Is the Dimona reactor safe?
Yes.
Israel hit back with a wave of strikes. The Red Crescent responding after a residential building in the country's northwest was destroyed. In Tehran, regime supporters mocked the US president's threat to obliterate Iran's power plants if it doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz.
Trump and Israel claim they've won the war 10 times a day. They still haven't accomplished anything.
If US threats regarding Iran's power plants are carried out, the Strait of Hormuz will be completely closed.
Donald Trump spent the weekend at his golf club, leaving his lieutenants to do the talking.
He's not going to allow this genocidal regime to hold the world's energy supplies or economies hostage.
The president's partner in this war saying it will only end once Israel and the US achieve their goals. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Dimona, Israel.
The oil supply shock is now spilling into every corner of the Australian economy. Transport companies are starting to introduce new fuel levies to cover the cost of delivering building materials, and firms supplying pipes for plumbing are warning of shortages and price hikes.
Brick by brick, home building costs are rising as war in the Middle East upends supply chains.
Bricks, flashings, concrete, anything that pretty much comes on a truck and needs to be freighted to site has gone up in price due to the fuel.
Bradley's suppliers are bringing in fuel surcharges of up to 10%.
We sort of have no choice. They have what we want, and if we're not willing to pay the increase, and then they just won't bring it to site.
Start rationing the machines out a bit. Yeah.
This sand quarry that supplies building sites has brought in a fuel surcharge as it churns through 500 litres of diesel a day.
This current scenario feels a lot like COVID again, and we've got this sudden price increase, great deal of uncertainty on supply.
There are particular fears about materials that are made from petrochemicals.
There is a shortage of key materials that go into things such as our pipes that is having a significant impact for plumbers and for other plastic type materials.
With prices rising and home construction times under threat, there are now fears that this situation could make the federal government's home building targets even more unachievable.
Master Builders Australia is increasingly concerned about our capacity to deliver 1.2 million homes over 5 years.
That was always an aspirational target.
As well as delays, there are risks for inflation as the Reserve Bank is already hiking rates.
Ultimately, the builders are going to have to allow for these increases, which unfortunately gets passed down to the clients.
All of this during an existing housing crisis. Amelia Terzon, ABC News.
The rise and rise of One Nation has seen support translate into seats in Parliament for the first time in South Australia. It secured more first preference votes than the Liberal opposition and has Conservatives across the country scrambling as voters prepare to go to the polls in Australia's two biggest states.
South Australia has never been a stronghold for One Nation, but on the weekend that changed. Voters turned to the party, most for the first time ever.
I voted Labor every state election leading up to it, but this time I voted for One Nation.
The young ones can't buy houses now. They're flooding Australia with immigrants. I'm not racist, I don't have a problem with it, but I just have a problem with the numbers.
The regional seat of Hammond is one of many across South Australia where voters threw their support behind One Nation in record numbers. Its population centre is here in Murray Bridge, where in many polling booths they came first on primary votes. One Nation has secured one seat but could win 3 more. It's been described as an orange tsunami, and the party's leader is riding it.
I'm excited. That's fantastic news, and it's great news for the people of South Australia.
Buoyed by its success, the party now has its eyes set on other contests. A May by-election in Susan Lee's former federal seat of Farrer will be the first test of One Nation's support in New South Wales.
They're a big force in Australian politics, and we expect them to be here in New South Wales. However, we're up for the challenge.
Victorians will go to the polls in November, but party luminaries have brushed off the One Nation threat.
I'm not concerned because I think the Liberal Party decimated its own vote, given what has been happening in South Australia.
Nationally, major parties are already on the attack.
Let's face it, One Nation, having been around for now 30 years, are yet to have ever delivered a budget. They haven't delivered a hospital, they haven't delivered a road.
The result in South Australia, the success of that party over there is fuelled by your preferences.
Correct.
That you are delivering them votes and seats in South Australia.
A question of whether that success will continue into future elections. Bethany Alderson, ABC News.
Australia's only manganese smelter, Liberty Bell Bay in northern Tasmania, has been placed into administration. The smelter is owned by Sanjeev Gupta's GFG Alliance and has been in care and maintenance since May last year. Administrators from Ernst & Young say they aim to restructure or sell Liberty Bell Bay and its assets. The smelter employs more than 200 people. Local business owners say it's a vital part of Australia's local steelmaking industry, and they hope a buyer can be found quickly.
Having Gupta out of the picture will allow a sale to happen much quicker, and that process, we already know there's interested parties.
Staff at the ABC will go on a 24-hour strike on Wednesday after they voted against a pay offer. It'll be the first time in 20 years ABC staff will walk off the job. 60% of employees who voted rejected a pay rise of 10% over 3 years. ABC Managing Director Hugh Marks says the offer is both sustainable and financially responsible. There'll be disruption to programming, but the ABC plans to continue delivering some services. Overseas now, and Cuba has begun restoring power a day after a nationwide collapse of the entire grid left around 10 million people in the dark. Cuba's ageing electrical grid has been teetering on the edge of collapse for months, with day-long blackouts the norm. But this latest failure marks the third major power outage this month. It comes amid a US oil blockade that has dealt a major blow to the island. Fuel sales of vehicles are rationed, airlines have suspended or reduced flights, and many workplaces have reduced hours. An arson attack in London that saw Jewish community ambulances set on fire is being treated as an anti-Semitic hate crime. 4 ambulances exploded in flames while parked next to a synagogue in the city's northwest. Video verified by the ABC shows hooded men setting the cars on fire at around 1:45 a.m. local time before running off. UK police say they believe the explosions were from gas canisters inside the vehicles. Police are looking for 3 suspects. No arrests have been made. New York's LaGuardia Airport has been shut down after an Air Canada Express plane collided with a vehicle on the tarmac. The plane inbound from Montreal hit a fire truck as it was landing in bad weather. US media is reporting that the pilot and co-pilot have been killed and dozens injured. Footage shows the plane tilted upwards on the tarmac with the cockpit sheared off. The airport has been shut down, with planes being diverted to other airports or returned to their point of origin. And to finance now, and the prices of gold and silver fell heavily today as the war in Iran continued to wreak havoc on global financial markets. Here's Alan Kohler.
Well, the people who queued up outside Australia's 2 gold bullion shops in January and February to buy an ounce for $7,000 or more are probably feeling a bit bruised right now, if not bewildered. Isn't gold meant to be a safe haven in times of turmoil like war? Well, yes, except in the second half of last year, gold and silver became speculative assets, which flipped the normal script. And now the war in Iran is causing all speculative items to be sold, including gold and silver. So gold is down 5% today and silver more than 7%. Meanwhile, oil is up about 1%, making it 60% since February the 28th. And on Friday, the International Energy Agency said this is the biggest oil and gas disruption in history. Energy traders said, yeah, we know. Gold and silver miners got absolutely smashed on the share market today. Kingsgate, South Gold, Unico Silver, all spifflicated. Banks also fell and energy stocks went up, of course. Sellers are also rampaging through Asian markets after a weekend of confusion about what America is doing. And the Aussie dollar dipped below 70 US cents because it's seen as a bit of a bet on Asia and gold, among other things. Meanwhile, the 10-year bond yield went above 5% for the first time in 15 years today. Now, bonds are government debt securities that are bought and sold on the market and priced by the interest rate. They're regarded as non-risky, so the price or rate is a fairly pure reflection of what investors think inflation will do. And finally, if you're wondering why one nation is surging in the polls, the World Happiness Report for 2026 might help. Now, last year Australia was 11th happiest country. Now it's slipped to 15th. This chart shows the change in happiness rating since 2012, and the big mover up is China. The happiest country, as usual, is Finland, and the unhappiest, by a long way, is Afghanistan, as usual. But Australians and Americans have been getting more and more miserable. And that's finance.
Essendon coach Brad Scott has taken the unusual approach of questioning his side's effort after suffering yet another thumping. The Bombers haven't won a match in more than 300 days. Scott didn't hold back in his scathing review of his struggling side.
Essendon are already limping and it's only round 2.
The last 2 weeks, pretty crap to be honest, on the field. We still have to keep vibes up around the club for sure, so it's a long season, stuff can change.
But morale might be tough for defender Mason Redman, who's set for a stint on the sidelines after scans confirmed he suffered a meniscus tear.
Pretty sore.
Another big loss leaves the whole club in pain. 9 months since their last win, 21 years since their last finals victory, and a quarter of a century since their last premiership.
I'm never going to tell Essendon fans to be patient, because I reckon 25 years is long enough.
Brad Scott's patience has also run out.
I'm a coach who very rarely questions lack of effort, lack of fight, but there's no doubt we're demoralised. I can list off a dozen things that we've got to work on, but I'll be leaving out the other dozen.
You don't feel there might be like a lack of desire to defend from some players at times?
I think it's part of it, yeah. Because it'd be ridiculous for me to say that's not the case.
The next 2 weeks will be critical for the Bombers. They face North Melbourne next week and then the red-hot Western Bulldogs, who'll be without Tom Liberatore, the midfielder becoming the 7th player to suffer a hamstring injury in the round, despite playing out Friday night's win against the Crows. At Collingwood, Bobby Hill is back in the fold, returning from personal leave and training for the first time since December. The forward was embraced by coaches and teammates, but will need to build his match fitness if he's to earn his spot in the side. Alexia Pesce, ABC News, Melbourne.
The Socceroos have unveiled their new kit they'll wear at the World Cup in North America. The design is a throwback to the famous 2005 strip where Australia broke its 32-year World Cup drought. They'll wear it in friendlies against Cameroon in Sydney on Friday and Curaçao in Melbourne on Tuesday. Taka Awamobile, who plays in Spain, is back in the squad for the first time in nearly 2 years.
I was just grateful, to be honest, to get called up again and to be among it again. I've missed it. You realise when you're away from it how special it is to represent your country.
Australian athlete Jessica Hull has capped off a successful World Indoor Championships in Poland with a silver in the 1500 metres. It was Hull's second medal of the meet after a bronze in the 3000 metres. Australian Adam Spencer finished strongly to claim a surprise bronze in the men's 1500 metres. It's his first global medal. It's a story for the ages, the 15-year-old no-name jockey from the bush riding a rank outsider to Melbourne Club glory. It happened 78 years ago, and now the story of Bert Chip's favourite son has been immortalised in a huge mural on the Silo Art Trail in Western Victoria.
They say there were about 100,000 people at Flemington Racecourse to see this year's Melbourne Cup.
It's 1948 and a tired old chestnut gelding named Rimfire and its young apprentice jockey are duelling down Flemington's famed straight in the Melbourne Cup.
And many must have thought Thompson was going to bring Dark Man in front of Ray Neville, the 16-year-old apprentice riding Rimfire.
In fact, Ray Neville was still 15 years old when he raced into the record books in the Cup's first ever photo finish.
Victory went to the 66-1 chance Rimfire.
His riding career ended soon after, but in his hometown of Birchip, his story has been given a new life.
This has always been talked about in Birchip, the feat of young Ray Neville at that age.
Ray Neville took up carpentry and settled in Birchip, where he married his wife June and raised a family.
I'm one of his daughters, one of his many children. He had 8.
Rosie Neville has heard the story all her life. She says Ray didn't even know he was riding Rimfire until the morning of the Cup.
But the grin on his face just says it all, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. Look what I've done.
He passed away in 2008, but it was a local legend that caught the attention of artist Kyle Tawney.
Yeah, this is hugely significant to particularly Birchip.
I know Dad's probably up there thinking, oh, what's all the fuss about? But he would be absolutely stoked.
And he's now the newest edition of Victoria's ever-growing Silo Art Trail.
Yeah, this is definitely the biggest I've ever done, yep.
It's amazing what a country kid can do.
A pint-sized hero, now larger than life. Tamara Clark, ABC News, Birchip.
And now to the weather, and tonight's weather pick of flooding at Adelaide River has been sent in by Zoe Truscott, and you can send us your weather photos to weatherpicsnt@abc.net.au. Afternoon showers and storms developed in the NT north of Devil's Marbles today. It was 30 in Darwin, 31 at Dundee Beach. Zooming out, 31 in Katherine, 32 for Jabiru and Borroloola 34. 32 degrees in Alice Springs, Yalara 34 and Tennant Creek reached 33. On the satellite, cloud over the north of the Northern Territory is associated with ex-tropical cyclone Narelle. Ex-tropical cyclone Narelle moved across the top end yesterday and will continue moving west-southwest across WA's Kimberley. Interstate tomorrow, showers expected for Hobart and Melbourne, developing showers. A top of 26 in Canberra, 27 in Sydney. For Brisbane, a shower or 2, sunny conditions in Adelaide and a top of 30 degrees in Perth. And then around the Territory tomorrow, Alice Springs 33 and partly cloudy, 35 for Papunya and mostly clear in Tennant Creek. Looking north, a developing storm and shower for Katherine and a chance of a storm in Borroloola and Nhulunbuy. And heading west, a shower and storm in Batchelor, and in Darwin tomorrow, a shower or 2 reaching a top of 31 degrees. There's a flood watch for much of the top end. Moderate to heavy rainfall was seen in the flood watch area over the weekend due to ex-tropical cyclone Narelle. Here's a major flood warning for Daly, Adelaide, Roper and Waterhouse rivers. For Adelaide River, major flooding there is slowly easing at Adelaide River Town. Moderate flooding is occurring at Bestwick Bridge and could reach major levels overnight. And there's a moderate flood warning for Katherine River. There's a morning high tide at 9:42 and a low tide at 3:15 in the afternoon. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:50 and set at 6:56. And looking ahead, possible showers and storms hanging around for Darwin, but we could see those conditions quiet down a bit and ease late in the week. And for Alice Springs, mostly clear days ahead. We could see some cooler temperatures towards the end of the week for Alice Springs. And stay with us now. Sarah Ferguson is up next with 7:30. Good night.